Next on Newsmax Prime, Rand Paul filibusters the Patriot Act in the Senate as intelligence officials release revelations about the intentions of Osama bin Laden just prior to his fatal encounter with our special forces. A couple of intelligence experts will offer their assessments. Also ahead, a former Florida prosecutor talks about biker gangs and what may await Waco. Plus, he may have been second in the ratings, but he's been second to none in longevity. David Letterman calls it quits tonight, and Newsmax Prime starts right now. Good evening and welcome to Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, Osama bin Laden's intentions. The terror leader insisted that his forces attack Americans instead of forming an Islamic State. We now know that because of a letter captured by our special forces when they killed the al-Qaeda leader. Miranda Khan has more from our newsroom. Miranda?
JD, that's just one of the revelations uncovered in the more than 100 pages of documents declassified and released earlier today. The underlining theme: stay focused on attacking the United States instead of being dragged into infighting between Muslims. The documents recovered in the May 2011 raid in Pakistan are being called a treasure trove for intelligence officials because it gives them a detailed look into the mindset of the man responsible for the 9/11 terror attacks and seemingly hell-bent on another attack against the United States. They also show bin Laden continued to interact with al-Qaeda leaders from his hideout while trying to continue to direct operations, but also show an increasing fear of drones amid concerns of surveillance. Another document released appears to be an application of sorts from prospective al-Qaeda members. Bin Laden also had dozens of publicly available government documents about the threat of al-Qaeda, information on nuclear power in Iran and Syria, and a State Department application for a U.S. passport. The timing of today's release comes a short time after Seymour Hersh alleged that Washington's official account of the search and eventual raid of the bin Laden compound that killed the al-Qaeda leader was in fact a lie. And some other items found in bin Laden's library: literary works by Islamist thinkers, a full section of articles on France's military politics and their economy, a document described as a suicide prevention guide, guides for video games, and English language books on history and current affairs, including works from radical Noam Chomsky and Bob Woodward's book, Obama's War. JD?
Thanks, Miranda. For more on the story, let's bring in a couple of gentlemen who certainly know the subject matter. First of all, a former intelligence officer and one-time advisor to General David Petraeus, our good friend Colonel Derek Harvey from Newsmax Washington. Likewise in that location, best-selling author and intelligence expert Mike Pregent is also with us. Gentlemen, to you both, thanks for your time tonight on Newsmax Prime. Derek, we'll begin with you. 100-plus pages of documents released. You've been calling for this for quite some time now. Why do you think this material still has a practical value?
Well, the material is of value, I think, one, to inform the American public and those that are fighting the al-Qaeda networks and other networks for what we can learn about how they operated and what we can expect from them in the future. There's a tremendous amount of information in there about their tactics, techniques, and procedures, how they operate, and I think there's still great value in this data for current operations if it is analyzed properly by the right kinds of people with the right kind of leadership.
Well, Mike, let me turn to you because quite often when there is a major intelligence breach, the side who has suffered the breach makes a lot of changes in sources and methods. Indeed, some go so far as to suggest that the intelligence we got back from that bin Laden raid has gotten stale quite quickly. It's the equivalent of ancient history. So let me ask you, viewed through that prism, why is it still important?
Well, going back to your point, with the UBL raid, within hours, the administration announced the death of Osama bin Laden. What that did was that quieted the al-Qaeda network. That would have been a better intel value to the intelligence community and special operators than this release of documents was soon after. I worked the documents after the raid in a classified environment. the release of these documents today, you're basically seeing the same kind of information. A lot of it had already been sanitized. A lot of it had been scrubbed for actionable intelligence. But of course, that network went dead as soon as we spiked the football saying we killed Osama bin Laden. To contrast that with the Abu Sayyaf raid that just happened, within hours of that raid, we announced that we took out a top-level ISIS official that turned out to be a mid-level guy. Again, it quieted a network. The documents on his computer hopefully will be of some intel value, but the short-term benefit to that raid was squandered when it became a PR push.
And speaking of PR, Derek, this is more public policy, but perhaps also public relations and politics. Senator Rand Paul, of course, is going to the floor of the Senate attempting to filibuster extension of the Patriot Act. In your view, how much did the timing of his intention to do that, did it coincide at all with the release of this bin Laden material?
I don't think the release of the materials coincided at all with the filibuster by Senator Rand. I think, though, that the senator is onto something here that's important, and I think understanding that bulk collection and the execution of the Patriot Act needs to be reevaluated, because we know for a fact, JD, that NSA itself has said that the materials gained through bulk collection have not prevented, have not been critical to stopping any terrorist attack.
Mike, let me turn to you. The Patriot Act and that constant tension between liberty and security. Should it be stopped outright, or can it be reworked? And what about Rand Paul's approach with a filibuster?
Well, I look at Christie's approach to the Patriot Act and Rand Paul's approach to the filibuster. Both are right. There's too much information to collect. The government can't do anything with it. It shouldn't have this bulk information that it can go into at any point. It basically gives the intelligence analysts too much data to look at. However, the intelligence community and the government should have the capability to go after specific targets and people that they're talking to. When I say go after, meaning monitor those communications. The issue is, where is the middle ground in the Patriot Act, and where is the middle ground and having an effective policy to prevent a future terrorist attack, and also find out what led to it, the lessons learned that are beneficial when you actually are able to go back in and look at this information.
2 minutes remain, gentlemen. And Colonel Harvey, let me turn to you with Ramadi and what we have seen with ISIS overrunning it. We gave the Iraqis a whole bunch of equipment, a whole bunch of training. Essentially, though, now all that equipment is in the hands of ISIS. What on earth is going on in your estimation, Derek?
Well, it's very discouraging, but the most important thing to take away from this is the president's strategy is not working. I don't think the president gave his strategy an opportunity to work, because it has not been properly resourced, it hasn't been well led, it hasn't been well executed. Even if we give him the benefit of the doubt, the strategy itself has not been supported by this current administration.
And Mike Pregent, you were mentioning earlier this administration's tendency to, quote, spike the football, whether it was the raid killing the mid-level ISIS official earlier this week or going back to bin Laden. Will this administration ever step away from the prism of domestic politics in terms of its foreign policy?
Well, part of that is the fact that when it releases talking points, it's to a domestic U.S. audience, and it doesn't understand the implications of regional partners when the White House says things that are contrary to what's actually happening on the ground in Iraq, and when it touts the success of a raid, although a successful raid, and then squanders the benefit of the raid by making it a PR stunt. Ramadi is a big deal. Ramadi is the big deal. ISIS was weakened 30 days ago. Saturday, it gained power.
And on that note, gentlemen, we thank you very much. Mike Pregent, his first appearance on Newsmax Prime. Sir, you have our thanks, and our old friend Colonel Derek Harvey. As always, the insights and analysis very much appreciated. Well, obviously, there are real life implications, real life and death implications. And when we come back, Gold Star mom Debbie Lee on the loss of her son in Ramadi and what that means. Stay tuned.